Take this opportunity to introduce myself to you. This is going to be my video diary of what I call the transformation of a lifestyle, in search of the ideal diet. I am glad you're able to join me. This will probably be the only time I formally introduce myself and you see me, as the purpose of this diary is not really about me at all. So I just want to take this time to introduce myself so that you can see who is speaking, put a face to the voice. And now we're going to get started on our very first videotaped meal, and it will be my rendition of what I have titled Apple Granate fruit cereal. Now, the obvious things that you will need to make your apple granate, apple pear granate, is going to be 1 banana, and this is probably the best ripeness because it's really going to be sweet because it has little specks on it. Not to mention, bananas with these little specks on them are actually very good for you. Is at this point in the ripening stage of a banana that it actually has more of the cancer-fighting benefits. We'll have an organic pear added to the mix. We are going to have our pomegranate, and yesterday I fixed the cereal, and this is the half portion of the pomegranate I had yesterday, which was a very big pomegranate, so we're going to use the other half today. And I use almond milk, but you can use almond milk, coconut milk, or any variation of any type of milk other than to flavor it. And if you are a cow milk drinker, you can use that as well. Remember, we're taking baby steps, so that would be perfectly fine. Now, the practical things that you will need to make this a success is a bowl to put your cereal in, a good knife to cut with, unless of course you have a spiralizer. People don't need a board at all. Banana must be peeled, which is not a great thing to have to figure out. And if you compost, which I do, you can always use that peel for your compost. Put nutrients back in the ground. So I love about our Father, He didn't waste anything. Even the crumbs were eaten. Isn't that awesome? So this is what you're going to do with your banana. You want to chop it in pieces that's basically like this. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and finish chopping that, and then I'll come back to you as I have nothing to say during this process. Then you don't need to keep watching. Now, if you are a homeschooler, I do want to say this: I have finished with my banana, and so now we're going to get started on the pear. Now, I'm going to slice my pears pretty much like this. But if you have a spiralizer and you want to try to get your children, especially depending on how young they are, into eating healthy, you can always take what I call the little shapers that you use for baking cookies and put little neat shapes like gingerbread men or whatever in them. You can get like the smaller baking stencils, if you will. If you could get those and use it to make unique shapes, you can make this a teaching tool. Teach children about different shapes, different animals, have them name them and make their sounds and so forth, and then your food has two purposes, especially if you homeschool. Doing creative, crafty things like that is one way you can do it. Of course, that would probably take more time, so if you have limited time, then you may not want to put that amount of effort, but that is an option. And plus, it'll be great for helping kids make the transformation if you did not start off feeding them this way. Because then it'll mirror or mimic a lot of their favorite cereals, even though it's fruit. And, to make it more desirable for them to eat it. So you can teach shapes, you can teach nutrition. Your kids are older, and you want to incorporate diet and food and importance of nutrition, showing them what these portions and how much nutrients are in each of these. And of course, you'll have to get the facts on the nutrients of pears and apples, bananas, and I would highly encourage you to make sure you get the nutrition based on those that you use that are organic and those that are not. As for bananas, my bananas are not organic, but I don't make a big deal about the bananas. I mean, the bottom line is it is more expensive, and my goal technically is to incorporate as much of the organic as possible, because I believe, just like voting, what you buy and what you invest your money into, it does say to corporate America and people who are making these type of decisions that it does matter to people that it's organic or not, that there is a market for it, because the bottom line is the love of money is the root of all evil, and companies are into making money. Not to mention farmers who are responsible, farmers who are concerned about our well-being. We have to support them as much as possible. If you have to splurge and pick and choose what foods or fruit you are not going to be able to purchase so that you can kind of maximize your bucks, then I would recommend that if I've got to choose something that's not organic, I would prefer the banana, orange, avocados, pomegranates, mainly because with those they have an outshell covering. So even if they spray pesticides or what have you on it, you're not eating that. So now I would say if you cut into your mandarin oranges or navel oranges or whatever, or into avocados, you still wash the outside, because they may spray the outside, and if that's the case, you don't want the sprayed outside in your, you're then transferring what's on the outside into your fruit. So I would definitely recommend changing it at that point. And you kind of want to make your pears, because of the flavoring of pears, and they're a little bit crispier. You may want to make them in smaller pieces, make them more digestible, easily digestible. And that's also going to depend on what condition your teeth is in. If you have dentures or so forth, you may want to make them extremely small. But that's not an issue for me, so I just want to make it small enough that I can actually put it on my spoon. And so now you can see what my pears look like, kind of like chopped pieces of tomato. Okay, now the next thing, I have organic apples. You definitely want to get organic apples. And again, that's because they spray the outside. And, if the outside is edible, my rule of thumb is I prefer to eat it. Simply because it's edible. And, what God created, He created good. So, we should be eating those things. And of course, you want to decor your apple. You don't want to have your apple not decored. You want to take out your seeds, of course, and anything that's not... You don't have to take out your seeds. Your seeds do have some anti-carcinogenic benefits, as it does contain laetrile, which is vitamin B17. So if you get some in your diet, it won't hurt you. Rule of thumb is basically you don't want to use seeds of citrus fruit in terms of eating, but grape seeds, I mean, hey, we got grape seed extract, can't be too bad for us. And apple seeds in moderation are not a problem. Watermelon seeds are very good for detoxing and kills parasites. So that's another fruit that the seed is healthy for you. You may want to incorporate that in your diet. Okay. So that you can see the size of my apples. This is basically the way they look. And I'm going ahead and put my apples in. I'm going to go ahead and start putting some of my bananas in to my bowl. And kind of want to mix all this kind of stuff up. So you have several different fruits kind of intertwined. And I do my pomegranates last because I can just, pour them in. And they're small enough that they'll kind of float to all different parts of the bowl. Okay. Now another thing, the seasonal fruit, I like to use pomegranates because they give my cereal that crunch, Bananas don't really give it a crunch, and apples give it somewhat of a crunch, but it's something about that sweet crunch of the pomegranate that I just so enjoy. But it's a seasonal fruit, which means you can't get it all the time. So if you enjoy that crunch, they are fruit that can be frozen. So you can always freeze them if you enjoy the crunch of pomegranate to eat during non-seasonal time. Just buy enough and store it up. If you choose not to do that, find an alternative. Find an alternative fruit to the pomegranate, which there are other alternative fruits to pomegranates that have a crunch and kind of similar texture. You might want to try doing something like the elderberry or the dewberry, blackberry, blueberries, and just play with it, see what you enjoy, and just incorporate that. Now if you just absolutely can't find anything else that has that crunch, that gives that flavor, then I would recommend perhaps trying to get that crunch by incorporating more of your nuts. So you can buy some walnuts or pecans, whichever one you prefer, and put that in there. That'll give it that crunch. Plus you get some very good fat in your diet, healthy fats that you get from the nuts or almonds or macadamia nuts. And just sprinkle maybe a tablespoon or two in there. Remember, this is a meal, so thing about fruits and vegetables, you can eat as many of these as you like and not have to worry so much about calories. You'll still have enough calories for the rest of your day. If you are a calorie counting person, then it won't hurt you too much. You'll still be well under probably 200 or 300 calories, even eating a full bowl, the size of bowl that I have for this fruit. And if you're feeding, and of course the portion is going to depend on size and what you got to do today. I mean, if you're feeding an adult, and of course you're going to want that to be full because this has to be enough fuel until lunch. And you want to fill up on your fruit. You're not trying to make room for the stuff that's not so good for you. You're trying to Make sure you eat as much of the good stuff as you can stomach. So, once you've gotten all of your pear and apple stuff, banana together, now I'm going to show you a picture of my bowl. You are currently resting on my cutting board, the part of course that I'm not using. So voila. So far, it's so good. So now, as we focus on the bowl that's in question, this is going to be kind of hard to direct, being that I don't have a crew. I'm kind of just having to do the best I can as far as angling it so that you can see everything that I'm doing. But as long as I have something to say, I'll be talking, so therefore I'll keep the cameras rolling as long as I'm still talking. So again, reiterate that you're not trying to make room for anything else. So to make it a whole meal, you can fill up as much as you need to on the fruits and vegetables, and you can alter this recipe as many ways as you like. Another thing you can add is you can add, if you don't have something that can make the crunch for you, you can add oatmeal granola kind of deal. I wouldn't do too much of that, as well as dried fruits, simply because then you're also going to be adding in your sugars, and so that's going to increase your calories. If you are a calorie counter, that will increase your calories considerably. Not to mention, it makes it more processed and less raw once you start adding that in. But, you know, I would say the very last resort, if you just really cannot get the granola, is to move to the dried fruit. And if you're going to do the granola, I would say don't do no more than maybe 2 tablespoons, depending on the size of the bowl. If it's a small bowl, maybe 1 tablespoon. If it's a large bowl, maybe 2. But you don't want... We're trying to do the opposite of what we've been doing. Most of our life, if we did fruit at all in our cereal, it was sprinkled in, and it was usually 1, and then we fill up on the Cheerios or whatever the grain was that we selected. And so now we're trying to basically do the opposite. If for you the cereal is just too much, and you don't want the effects of having to do too many bowel movements, if that's something you're concerned with, then you may want to try just starting even slower. Maybe start off with your grain cereal, your Honey Nut, Cheerios, or any cereal that doesn't have BHT as its preservative, because that's some really bad stuff. You don't want that in your diet. So then do that and make sure it doesn't have a lot of sugar. Then you can make that your 1 cup. Put the 1 cup of that, and then the rest is fruit. Do whatever fruit you like. Try to stay away from the melons. I don't like to. Some people have a bad reaction to mixing melons with other food, but don't put just bananas. Most people put bananas in cereal like that, but put your pomegranates, your apple slices, chopped, whatever. Just do the whole gamut. Put your raw nuts, chopped, you know, coconut shavings if you want, or if you like, pineapples, just whatever fruit you like. But try to do half and half if you can't do, you know, basically what would be the equivalent of 80-20 or 90-10 in terms of grain ratio to fruit. Variety fruit ratio, because the whole point is we're trying to maximize more of the fruit in our diet. And as you can see, it could take a while in preparation time. Of course, I'm talking, so that's slowing me down, but you could basically say that this process takes roughly about 15 minutes to prepare. A little longer than it may take you to fix a kind of quick breakfast if you're fixing something like just oatmeal and scrambling some eggs or something of that nature, but in cooking toast. But the benefits are much more worthwhile. Now I'm going to probably stop, and as you can see, I didn't even get through a half of this pomegranate. It's just that large. And again, pomegranate can be frozen. So as a result, I made that the last thing because I just like the taste of it. But if you buy fruit that's a lot more perishable and not as easy to, or changes its flavor when frozen, and you don't want to have to throw it away, then I would say make sure that you put as much of that which is not as easily kept without altering as possible. You know, like your bananas, your apples, things like that. Now apples you can chop up, and I may actually do that today. I may actually chop them up and freeze them so that I can have them and I won't lose as much. But you know, there's some fruit that just doesn't taste the same once it has been altered. And in fact, I may do this so that way my husband can have the benefit of this cereal tomorrow if I chop up more work. And that means that you're already chopping, going ahead and, you know, bag up, chop up your apples. I wouldn't necessarily say bananas, but chop up your apples and or you might want to de-seed your pomegranates and put them in bags. The pomegranates can stand a while in the refrigerator. Your apples, if you think you're not going to get to them again today, like in a smoothie or something like that, you may want to freeze it and just let it unthaw when you're ready to eat it. Okay, this is how it looks without the milk. Now we're going to pour. Just pour as much as you like, but I kind of like to do halfway. Okay. So now you have apple, pear, granata.